This is the last little lecture for this module, lecture 4. And as we talked about before, there's been an effort to bring the benefits of increased globalization to the developing countries. We mentioned that the BRIC countries have been doing well. There's the New Growth 8, so there's other countries such as Vietnam that have been doing well. There's lots of nations, however, that haven't benefited from world trade as much as others. And so this little lecture is going to be relatively short, because what I'd like you to do is go to this URL here. I'm not going to bring it up. I'm having some technical problems with the technology here. But anyway, if you would, here's the URL, so you can copy and paste this. There's a nice little discussion by the former head of the World Trade Organization, Pascal Lamy, who had been head of the WTO until fairly recently. So he has a nice little video discussion on what's happening with the Doha Development Round and why there's some disagreements about the benefits of globalization. So if you would, that's about 6.5 minutes on that one. So for the rest of the semester, here's what we want to talk about. So in the next module, we're going to be talking about multilateral organizations and regional trade agreements. After that, then we're going to be talking about comparative advantage and the gains from trade and why international trade even takes place. Some issues that we're going to be coming up with what are the effects of trade growth, international trade growth on wages and jobs? What are the efforts to protect domestic jobs, and are those good or bad? Then we're going to look at trade deficits, and so as you probably realize, the United States has had a significant trade deficit for a long time. So what are the implications of that? How are those different across different countries? We're going to look at some multilateral institutions, but also regional trade agreements, and how trade conflicts get resolved at the regional level and at the international level, such as the World Trade Organization. A key thing that we're going to be looking at is how exchange rates are determined and how it affects trade flows and economic growth with changing exchange rates, and vice versa, how changing economic factors affect exchange rates. We're going to look at so the world is just emerging from a worldwide financial and economic crisis, and so what leads to these kinds of crises, and why do some of them spread globally and some of them don't? We're going to look at, so key part of that is how does capital flow between countries? If a country runs a current account or a trade deficit over a long period of time, it can run up debt, and so what does that mean? We're going to look at developed countries in the world economy. So how's the U.S., the EU, and Asian countries done? What has Asia done to promote growth? And they focus mostly on exports. And then how about other countries such as Brazil, Russia, India, and China, the BRICS, and other countries that are developing countries, and how are they coming along, and what does the future portend? So that's what's coming up for the rest of the semester.